coding just isn't as fun anymore. You'll see a lot of videos right now talking about how coding went from being this stimulating, creative experience to being distilled down to just you writing instructions for a computer to execute. And with tools like Whisperflow, you don't even need to type anymore. You can just scream directly into your microphone port on the computer, and it will produce some of the best looking web apps you've ever seen. The challenge is gone and it's just not fun anymore. So, how do we bring back the magic? I'm a senior AI engineer, so naturally my job consists a lot of prompting. So I've been trying to research what made coding so fun in the first place and how can we bring it back with AI assisted coding. So first of all, what did we love so much about coding? We all remember back in the day, like you could easily go on like 10+ hour sessions just because you were stuck on a problem or you were in a good flow state and you're getting constant dopamine hits with everything you fixed, every feature you shipped and you saw it work. Sometimes I'd be stuck on a problem and then I go to sleep, and as I'm falling asleep, I'll just think about the problem and I'll come up with a solution. That's how addictive coding was. And this is a gold mine. This is such a highly paid industry and it was fun. It was like genuinely addicting, especially if you're a gamer. Like I feel like for me as a recovering gaming addict, it tickled the same neurons in the brain for me. And I got the same satisfaction as when I got a Killionaire on Halo, which never happened to be honest. But I was close. So let's try to break it down why coding was fun. First of all, it's just the problem solving aspect. I mean, at the end of the day, you're solving problems. I think that is still existent today. Just a lot of these things will look differently after using stuff like Cloud Code or Cursor. Then there was the part of breaking down the problem into multiple parts, reading through documentation and the code base to get more context, finding one or multiple solutions, identifying the best way of solving a problem among many approaches. And I think the last part is the most important. The actual act of writing is a creative process. It just feels nice to make letters appear on the screen. Then you reload the server, test your changes, it still doesn't work, you try again a couple of times, and eventually it works, and you get that instant satisfaction. Well, probably not instant. If you look at all these bullet items, you'll find that a lot of these things are still present, even with AI-assisted coding. Like, we're still problem solving, we can still break down problems into smaller ones. Coming up with solutions is probably the easy part now, but choosing between them is a lot harder because solutions are cheap. Okay, so how can we embody this when using Cursor and Cloud Code? First of all, I just want to give a disclaimer, like, look, it will never be the same as it was before. Just writing all the code manually and the satisfaction and the frustration that came with that, those things are pretty much gone, man. And you need to accept it. The stuff I'm about to talk about now, it's not going to be a perfect replacement, so curb your expectations here. First thing is, like I said before, it's very easy to just accept suggestions from Cursor or Cloud Code when it comes up with a solution. And then you ship it and it might even work and then you forget about it. And then you might have to revisit it later because that code is messing up. And you realize that the solution wasn't really the best one, but you want to ship quickly. Because the thing is, now that we have AI, companies expect us to ship that much more features. So of course you do want to be more productive with AI and ship more. And that's just something you have to manage. What I'm about to say is quite obvious, but you probably don't even do it. Like, when you get a suggestion or when Cloud Code writes up the code for you, like, really read through it. And it might be in a part of the code base you don't really understand because some other team member vibe coded it up as well. Well, read through the entire thing. Be that developer that actually still tries to understand stuff. Because at the end of the day, writing the code part is facilitated, but you still need to read it. And say what you want about the advancements of AI-assisted coding models. I still catch them making some huge boo-boos like all the time in my job. And I use the most expensive models always. Just as a human developer also makes a bunch of mistakes. And what are LLMs modeled after? Well, they are modeled after humans. So read through the code and really challenge the AI. When it writes up a plan and it thinks this is the best solution or this is the reason why the bug exists, really challenge that. Like, what grounds do you have to believe that this is why the bug exists? And you'll find a lot of times Opus 4.7 will be like, lucky yes, I guess, or like, You're right, I should dive more into that one. Good call, buddy. And especially if you have a code reviewer, it might flag some stuff that like, oh, this could be a huge disaster if this occurs. And you actually look at the code and you're like, okay, but like, what really is the likelihood of this particular thing occurring? And they'll be like, you're right, I lied. It's not a big deal. Once I challenge the AI and I can either support its stance with more evidence, or it can back off and say, yeah, I was wrong. Thank God I have a human like yourself to whip me into shape. It kind of gives me a bit of that dopamine rush again, because I've outsmarted the clanker. Like, this guy's not taking my job. Come on. I'm still in control here. But also, I'm a senior AI engineer, but even if you're not at a senior level, like you can have to treat AI as more your junior developer. Like you can produce a lot of code fast, but it needs guidance and direction. That's kind of what the software engineer job is becoming. It's like managing these AI agents, right? The role of software engineer is kind of shifting. I mean, before the barrier to entry was just the technical know-how and programming and syntax knowledge. Whereas now that stuff is cheap, it's easy. So what's becoming more important now? Well, having product focus, having business understanding. So like, let's say if you work at a fintech, let's say you work at a startup in the real estate industry. Well, now you might need less time to look at actual documentation and stuff like that, but you have more time to read up on industry news, what's happening in the industry, how are interest rates affecting like construction materials, and how is that going to affect the business you're operating in, and how does that present new opportunities through technology. So you want to develop more of a product mindset and dedicate more of your time to doing that. And honestly, like it can be really fun to really dig deep into an industry in which you work in. I pretty much made up my whole career of being a software developer in the real estate space because I was a real estate agent before. So I've always had the interest and knowledge of that industry. And it's just really fun for me to like read about what's happening, and because I'm very knowledgeable about the industry, it gives me a lot of ideas of implementing, and I can send away to my AI agent slave to build for me, you know? It's kind of fun. Another thing I highly recommend you do is ask AI to do periodic audits of certain flows in your application, because especially if you have a bunch of team members and they're all AI coding, then this can get, sloppified. So it's very good to make an audit to like unsloppify the code, and it will flag several things for you to take a look at. Like this is a P1, this is a warning. And basically what you'll have to do then is kind of go through each of them, look at the code and decide for yourself, is this a valid thing to fix, or is the AI just being, dramatic? And I find that very fun because it makes the maintenance part a lot more fun, right? And you're throwing again another human layer onto the whole AI code slop. And also, hey, if you're worried about AI taking over the software engineer role, well, it's these things where you find out that AI isn't really as good as a human in a lot of cases, and that can be quite fun to experience as well. Another thing is writing skills, configuring your AI code editor. I use mainly Cloud Code right now, so I would often write skills, and it can be small things like, hey, if I ask you to make a PR, put in this label corresponding to the project, put on a certain label that corresponds to a certain project in Linear, which has the ticket that I'm working on or the issue, right? And this is just a cool thing. So like when I make a PR, it automatically understands, hey, I'm working on this issue from our Linear, and it will add that label in GitHub, so it's nicely organized. It will also add the AI review label, which will spawn the code review assistants to review the code automatically. That's kind of nice. I used to be a NeoVim user until recently, where I don't even code anymore. And a part of the fun there is just customizing everything. You can get very lost in customizing NeoVim, and the same can be said with Cloud Code. There's a lot of plugins out there. You can write a lot of skills to extend it. So, make sure dedicate some time to that, and then you'll be able to find a way to make even AI-assisted coding a lot more fun for you. And going back to using linear, I find myself being a lot more granular and productive with linear now. And tend to document these tickets a lot more because I don't really write any code. Like I said, there's a nice creative release when you write and document things. So I find myself writing a lot more inside linear, which is great and very appreciated by the rest of my team. Also, another thing is I just tend to take a lot more notes. There's so many things to keep up with in AI. And when you're using Cursor or Cloud Code, like you'll end up finding so many new things. I started actually writing notes about, oh, this is what I learned this week. This is what I learned about transformers, fine tuning, etc. And I find that just really helps me consolidate all the knowledge that's being thrown into me in a day. And then I write it out, and it's actually like there as a physical evidence. It's like documentation for myself. And I can be quite creative in the way I write things. So try that out as well. There's a lot of benefits in journaling, whether it be your personal life or your professional life or your educational life. If you're interested in reading the notes I'm taking as I'm learning the things I'm doing as a senior AI engineer, I actually have a newsletter where I publish these like maybe once a week or something. It's very like sporadic. It's not like your typical newsletter that's AI generated and like a lot of text and nicely formatted. This is literally me, a scratch pad being like, oh, this is what I learned, this is why it's cool, and this is what's helpful for me. Like all lowercase type beat, I'm never going to use an LLM to generate these. These are my internal notes that if you want to read them, feel free. Link in the description. I have some more unconventional ways of making coding fun again. And one of them is, I thought this was funny. I saw Web Dev Cody's video where he talks about playing RuneScape while coding, which I think is honestly a great idea. I used to play a lot of RuneScape back in the day, and I remember there were times where I just pretty much had like a TV series. I would pretty much just have split screen, like RuneScape on one side of the screen, and then like I would watch a TV series like the OC on another. Because it's such a passive game, like you click on stuff, you chop down trees, and then you level up and you get that dopamine hit. It kind of plays very well together with AI-assisted coding. But this is more like if you work remotely or you're working on a personal project. Because if you're doing this in the office, your manager might look at you and be like, why am I paying you to play RuneScape? I thought that was pretty funny. Here's Cody's video in case you want to check it. I thought it was quite interesting. Because the thing is, you have a lot of downtime usually when you're AI coding because you're sending away an agent to build stuff. And then you're like, okay, what do I do? Okay, what to do? You might work in another feature using a Git work tree, but there's a lot of context switching, and I wouldn't really consider that to be very fun unless you have like really hardcore ADHD, in which case that's probably advantageous by now at this time, but I'm not like that. But I'm a dude and I can't multitask. But sometimes I'll do an online course while I'm waiting for stuff to build. I really like the courses by deeplearning.ai, and it's very interesting you can learn about Gen AI, you can also learn about the ML part of things and the low-level technology that powers stuff like transformers. I think it's quite interesting. Just watching YouTube videos, but keeping it to technical things that you make sure you're actually learning. And lastly, playing guitar. Yeah, I sometimes play guitar while I'm waiting for Cursor or Cloud to cook stuff up for me. And I think this is nice because it is a context switch, but it uses a completely different part of my brain. So while playing, I can actually read what's happening in real time. And also when I switch back and I put the guitar away and go to typing, it kind of uses a different part of my brain. So like I'm not as paralyzed as when I'm switching between working on different features at the same time. So yeah, maybe pick up like flute or harmonica or something and just learn how to play that while you're waiting. This is a jaw harp. I think it was like a Viking instrument or something, but it's a cool little instrument you can like keep on your desk. You can learn in a couple of hours and make some really like cool, weird noises and also look incredibly sexy while doing it. Yeah, this ain't your regular coding YouTube channel. Okay, so that's where I've gone so far, and these are some of the things that have made coding a bit more fun in this day and age for me. Look, is that as fun as it was before? No, dude, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. And it will never be the same as it was before. Like, accept that. Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, you know? And also, there's no guarantee that if AI never came around and you were finding all this dopamine rush and passion for coding, like, there's no guarantee that would last for another 5 years. I mean, if you look back 5, 10 years ago, the things that really drove you back then, the things that got you addicted and hooked and all that, are they really things that you're super passionate and still they have that same addicting dopamine release effect? Probably not. So don't blame AI for sucking the life force out of coding. Blame time itself. We probably notice is when you get older in life, a lot of things that used to give you pleasure and a sense of accomplishment just don't hit the same anymore. Life is a constant cycle of finding new things to give you purpose and excitement, and it's up to you to keep experimenting and exploring and finding new ways of doing so. Shut up. The goalpost is always moving. See this as a way to set new goals, learn new skills, find new purpose, and become a much more well-rounded human. Anyway, if you like this video, I make a lot of videos about life as an AI engineer, helping existing developers or old developers to become an AI engineer, just life in general, coding in the AI era. So if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like this one, where I talk about how I would become an AI engineer if I had to restart it from scratch, basically. So make sure to check that out, and yeah, I'll see you later.